All right, so God fine-tuned the constants so there would be stars? He must really like stars, right?
Yes. No. He fine-tuned the universe for humanity.
That's why God filled the universe with humanity?
That's right. No. Humanity exists only on Earth. The Bible only talks about Earth, so that means there is no intelligent life anywhere else in the universe. God made the universe for man alone.
Actually, the God of the Bible seems pretty preoccupied with Israel and the ancient Near East. I guess there was no intelligent life anywhere else on Earth either.
That's right.
So the rest of the universe is just kind of a waste? Why would God do that? Maybe it was a mistake and he ordered too much universe.
God does not make mistakes. He is perfect. As I said, he can only make perfect things.
Isn't it just a bit of a stretch to say that the God who created the whole universe is the same God who keeps boasting in the Bible about destroying the Egyptians and the Canaanites and so on? Seems like kind of a lame second act.
No, not at all. After you create a perfect universe for mankind, it is only natural that you would want to destroy them.
Okay, so it was God who made the universe with the fundamental constants it has?
That's right. As I said, those are the only values that lead to galaxies and stars and matter and life and galaxies and mankind, which is the sole purpose of creation.
He couldn't have picked other constants?
No, other constants would not have been compatible with galaxies and stars and matter and galaxies. Have you been listening?
Okay, but why would other constants not be compatible with stars?
Because the laws of physics make it impossible for a universe with other constants to produce galaxies and stars and life and mankind. That is what the scientists tell us.
So God was forced to pick those constants so that the physics would lead to stars.
That's right. No, God is not forced to do anything. God made the laws of physics.
So you're saying God could have picked any set of constants at all?
That's right. God is all powerful.
So God doesn't have to fine tune anything?
That's right. God controls everything.
But didn't you say that God had to pick exactly those constants to make stars? Those and no others?
That's right.
So God had to pick exactly those, but he could also have picked any others?
That's right.
I'm not sure it is. I mean, in your view, is God just randomly picking the constants, or did something compel him to choose one thing over another? I'm not getting it.
Because you are being dense. God does not pick constants like you are picking out your socks in the morning. The perfect God creates the perfect constants. There is no picking, there is no choosing. It is all determined by God's perfect nature.
So, God's nature required these specific constants that lead to stars and life?
That's right. God's nature is unchanging. The constants are perfect because God's nature is perfect.
So it's God's nature that implies exactly the universe we have. No other universe was ever possible?
Yes, a universe for humanity.
So if there were no humanity, there would be no God?
What?
Well, you said God's perfect nature implies perfect constants that in turn imply stars and matter and man. So if there were no man, that would mean that there were no perfect constants, and that would mean that there was no perfect God. So logically speaking, you could have man without God, but you couldn't have God without man.
Wrong. God must exist. God is a necessary being, a brute fact. We said that.
So then man's existence is also necessary, right? If God necessarily exists, his perfect nature causes the perfect constants to exist, which cause man to exist. There are no choices.
Wrong again. Of course, God can choose. He has volition, just as we do.
But I thought everything is determined by his unchanging nature.
Yes, except the things that are not determined that way. And those things he can choose with absolute freedom.
So God has no freedom and absolute freedom?
That's right. And God chose constants and laws that lead to stars and galaxies and matter and life and galaxies.
Okay. So he picked the constants completely freely, and anything he picked would lead to stars and humanity if he wanted it to, right?
Of course, he can do anything. Omnipotent.
And of all the infinity of parameters he could have chosen and still made mankind, he chose these ones. Why?
To fine-tune the universe for life.
But you said God doesn't need to fine tune. He can make life from many parameters.
Well, if he didn't pick these constants, then the universe would make no sense to us. There would be no natural laws, no rational explanation for our existence.
Except for there being an all powerful God, right?
That's right.
But he didn't want us to think that?
That's right. If he made the universe unexplainable, then his existence would be obvious to everyone.
And that would be bad?
That's right. God does not make his existence obvious.
But I thought you said that fine tuning makes God's existence obvious.
That's right. You cannot deny God's existence.
God wants to be obvious, but not obvious?
That's right.
Is that also why the constants seem almost exactly fine tuned, but not perfectly fine tuned?
That's right. Obvious, but not obvious.
So let me understand. God could have decided to make any kind of universe compatible with mankind, but he was forced to choose these constants so that the universe would appear fine tuned to man?
That's right. No! God was not forced to do anything. He could have designed any universe at all and made it appear to us any way he wanted at all. He is omnipotent.
So then, remind me, how does having God explain the values of the constants?
Because it was God who fine-tuned the constants for life.
But he didn't. He just chose any values he wanted. An omnipotent God doesn't need to fine tune anything.
But he could.
No, he couldn't. You can't fine-tune if you control all the parameters. There's nothing external to tune to. It's all arbitrary.
But the universe looks fine-tuned.
Yes, but if you think about it, that kind of suggests that whoever fine-tuned it was not all-powerful, but was working with some design constraints. They couldn't pick just anything, but had to select very precisely to get the numbers right.
Well, then it wasn't God. God has no constraints.
So then who was it? Maybe a demigod who tinkered with the constants till he got it right?
Absolutely not. The universe was not designed by a demigod or a tinkerer.
But the constants do seem to be fine-tuned, as you said, perhaps a demigod who really likes stars.
There are no demigods, only the God of the Bible, and he is all-powerful. He does not tinker. He makes everything perfect by his very nature.
Well, then, I think we're at an impasse. I mean, I can't explain why the universe looks fine-tuned based on natural laws, and you can't explain why the universe looks fine-tuned based on an omnipotent deity.
Well, that is where you are wrong. It is actually very simple. God designed the universe to have certain brute facts that people like you can never explain,
Why?
so that you will recognize God.
I thought he designed the universe for life.
Yes, for lowlife like you, who would not recognize his obvious presence in the world. That is why he created things you cannot explain.
You can't explain them either.
But I have God.
But I'm okay with brute facts. It's hard to imagine that every possible question has an answer. Eventually, there probably have to be some brute facts about the universe that we can't explore any further.
And that is exactly when you need God.
Why?
Because God answers those questions that you can't answer.
I thought God just replaces the brute facts with another brute fact.
That's right.
What's the point of that?
The point is that you can live a life without questions and have certainty.
I don't want to live a life where I pretend to be certain if I know there are still big questions.
It is much better to be certain.
Not if I'm certainly wrong. I'd rather just say, I don't know.
Then you will spend your whole life saying, I don't know and I may never know. Why not spend your life saying, I do know?
Because I'd feel like a fraud?
That's right. But you get used to it after a while.
Well, you do seem very sure of yourself.
That's right.